It was a crisp autumn evening in 1978 when John woke up to an eerie sound. The radio by his bed, which he'd left off the night before, was now tuned to a local station that played nothing but static. Yet he could have sworn he heard his name being called. Was it just a trick of his imagination, or was something more sinister at play? As the night wore on, the radio kept switching stations, each time whispering his name into the darkness. With each transmission, John became more disturbed until finally he couldn't take it anymore. He turned the radio off, desperate for silence, only to hear his name being called right next to his ear. Panic surged through him. What was happening? Who was out there? His heart pounded against his ribs like a trapped bird as he tried to make sense of the situation. But no matter how hard he strained, the voice remained just beyond his grasp. It was always there, yet never quite audible. Like a phantom limb, he felt its presence even if he couldn't quite see it. And so began John's descent into a terrifying mystery that would keep him on edge, wondering if he was losing his mind or if something more sinister was at play. The days that followed were filled with unease. The radio in the living room would turn on by itself, tuned to different stations, sometimes playing music, other times broadcasting static. Each time, John would feel a chill crawl up his spine as he convinced himself he wasn't imagining things. There was definitely someone out there trying to contact him. But why? What did they want from him? The questions echoed in his mind unanswered. Then came the phone calls. Late at night, the phone in the kitchen would ring, the receiver slamming down on the table as if placed there by an invisible hand. He never answered these calls, too afraid of what might be on the other end of the line. But the caller kept trying, persistent and unwavering. The relentless ringing of the phone in the dead of night became a haunting melody in John's nightmare. One evening, as John sat alone in the living room, the silence was broken by a knock at the door. His heart skipped a beat as he froze, listening intently. The knock came again, louder this time, followed by a voice raspy and unfamiliar. "John, is that you?" The voice called out. John didn't respond. He remained rooted to the spot, fear paralyzing him. The voice called out again, this time closer to the door. "John, let me in." John backed away, his eyes wide with terror. Was this the person from the radio? The voice on the phone? What did they want? He pressed his back against the wall, his eyes darting around the room for an escape, finding none. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. "Let me in, John. Please, let me in." The voice was now a desperate plea. Unable to bear the tension any longer, John fled, racing up the stairs to his bedroom. Slamming the door behind him and locking it, he threw himself onto the bed, his breathing heavy, his heart still pounding. Was he losing his mind? Was this some elaborate prank? Or was there a real person outside his door, desperate to get in? Days turned into weeks, the mystery deepening with each passing day. Then one morning, John found a letter pushed under his door. His hands trembled as he picked it up, the letter bearing no stamp, no return address. With shaking hands, he broke the seal and began to read. "John, it's me. I know you can hear me. Please let me in. I need your help." The words were scrawled in a messy handwriting that seemed to mock his inability to decipher the message. Who was this person? What did they want from him? And why were they tormenting him in this way? The letter offered no answers, only deepening the enigma. Determined to put an end to this terrifying ordeal, John decided to confront whatever or whoever was behind this. Armed with a baseball bat, he descended the stairs, each step creaking ominously in the silence. As he reached the bottom, he cautiously approached the door, his hand hovering over the doorknob. Taking a deep breath, he flung the door open, ready for whatever awaited him. But the room was empty. There was no one there. The voice, the phone calls, the knocks, they were all gone. Had he imagined it all? Was it a cruel joke played by his friends? Or was there a more sinister explanation lurking in the shadows? Just as he began to think he might be losing his mind, The phone on the kitchen counter rang, its shrill sound echoing in the otherwise silent house. His hand trembled as he reached out to answer the call. "Hello," he whispered, his voice hoarse from disuse. A low chuckle echoed through the receiver. "Looking for me, John? You should have known I'd find you." The voice was raspy, almost a growl, sending shivers down John's spine. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" John demanded, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and anger. "You know who I am, John. We've met before," the voice hit. "I know what you're thinking. You think this is a game? It's not. It's real. And I'm here to claim what's mine." The voice grew louder, more menacing. "You took it from me, John. Now I want it back," the voice screamed, the sound distorted and filled with rage. "Why? What are you talking about? I don't know what you want, but I can help you," John stammered, desperately trying to reason with the voice. "You took it from me, John. I want it back," the voice repeated, its tone unwavering. "What? What did I take from you? Please tell me," John pleaded, his voice cracking. The voice on the other end of the line was silent for a moment. Then it started to laugh, a chilling sound that echoed in John's ears long after he hung up the phone. "You'll find out soon enough, John, soon enough," the voice taunted before the line went dead. Fear gnawed at John's insides. What did the voice mean? What had he taken from him? Why was he being targeted? The questions swirled in John's mind, but there were no answers to be found. Trapped in his own nightmare, John tried to piece together the fragments of the cryptic message, desperately seeking a solution to the mystery. As the days passed, the cryptic message continued to haunt him, driving him to the brink of madness. Sleep evaded him as the haunting melody of the voice on the phone echoed in his dreams. He became a prisoner in his own home, the walls closing in on him, the silence deafening. Was he truly losing his mind, or was there a sinister force at play? One evening, as the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the room, John made a decision. He would visit the local library, hoping to find answers among the shelves of ancient books. Perhaps there was a forgotten lore, a dusty tome that held the key to the mystery. With a mix of apprehension and determination, he stepped into the library, the scent of aged paper enveloping him like a shroud. He made his way to the reference desk, where a kind-faced librarian greeted him with a warm smile. "How can I help you?" she asked, her voice a soothing balm in the sea of his turmoil. Gathering his thoughts, he began to explain his predicament, each word a struggle as he grappled to articulate the enigma he faced. "Voice! Phone calls! Whispers!" he murmured, the words tumbling out in a rush. The librarian listened patiently, her brow furrowed in thought. That sounds like a fascinating mystery," she said, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "Perhaps I can help. What seems to be the connecting thread between these occurrences?" John pondered for a moment. "All of it started after I moved into this house," he finally said, realizing the significance of the detail. "Ah, that might be the key," the librarian exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. "Do you know the history of your house? Perhaps there's a story buried in its walls, waiting to be unearthed." Intrigued, John followed her guidance, delving into the annals of his house's history. He discovered a tale of love, loss, and a tragic twist that echoed through the years, and in the heart of the story, he found the answer he had been seeking. With newfound understanding, John returned to the present, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. He realized that the voice he had been hearing belonged to the house's previous owner, a woman named Eleanor. Years ago, she had lost her son in a tragic accident, and in her grief, she had become deeply connected to the house's telephone system, believing it to be the only way to communicate with him. Driven by his empathy and understanding, John decided to lay the restless spirit of Eleanor's son to rest. He returned the boy's favorite toy, a sailboat, to the house, and with it, A sense of peace seemed to settle over the property. No longer tormented by the whispers on the wind or the voice in the static, John finally understood that sometimes the most terrifying mysteries have the simplest solutions.